What's up, guys? Matt Brown here for TheLines.com. With me, my good friend Steven Andrus, as we go through Monday Night Football. We've got the Cowboys at the Giants. Guys, as always, everything we do, absolutely free. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Really do appreciate the support. And then also, let us know in the comment section how you are playing this game. Steven, I wanted to bring you in because I don't have a real opinion of this one. You do, in fact, have a bet in your account. Also kind of a chance for us to give a miniature lesson here about, depending on, how seriously you want to take this, about looking at lines when they first hit as well. That being said, we're sitting right now. The Giants are 1-point favorites in this one, as you can see over on your screen if you are following along with me on the screen grab here. They are 1-point favorites. A total as low as 39. You can find a 39.5. We did see one book out there in PointsBet that is basically running this thing out as a pick'em. So I don't know if that is any indication of where this will ultimately be by the time kickoff gets here, or if that's just PointsBet trying to differentiate themselves in the market a little bit. But you are on the Cowboys. That said, you did get the Cowboys at a little bit better of a number.
Yeah, for sure. I hit this very early in the week when the Cowboys were +3. I thought it was ridiculous to be at that number. Nevertheless, I know that's not helpful to anybody watching right now. You have basically a pick 'em on the screen right now.
It's true, but I do think this is a good kind of like teaching moment, at least a little bit, right? I understand it's not conducive to everybody's lifestyle, and I understand that this is not, you got people have kids and jobs and things, different stuff like that. But, I got super lucky on Sunday Night Football. I hit the 49ers when that line first came out and had them at +2. Who knew that the thing was going to end up at 1? But I mean, it did, and was able to get that home. You have an extra couple of points in your pocket, which is actually up to a field goal, which we know is the most key number there is on the face of the planet. So, if you are trying, we always say, hey, plan out things, look in advance. If you look at the schedule for the next week, for the week that's coming up, if a game somewhat entices you, somewhat piques your attention, if you can find yourself in front of a computer on Sunday afternoons when the lines start hitting, you might be able to get that game at a much more favorable line. And because there are people out there who are watching this stuff. And like you said, you got it at 3. It didn't last at 3 very long, right? I mean, you got a number that was much more favorable to you.
For sure. And especially the point you're making when the number is on a key number, because that makes it even more valuable. A 3, a 6, a 7. If it's floating around 5, 5.5, and you're not sure, it's okay to wait a little bit before it gets back to 4 or 6 the other way. So, but the handicap of this game to me is I still think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think the Giants were pretty fortunate last week to win with 3.8 yards per play. I think that we have a bit of a trenches mismatch in this one, Matt. I mean, Micah Parsons is wrecking games through the first 2 games of the season. I mean, we're going to have to start having conversations about this guy being, only, less than 20 games into his career, a Hall of Fame type player with the production he's putting up. 59% pass rush win rate among edge players. That's number 1 in the league. And the next closest guy is 46%. And it's another future Hall of Famer, and Von Miller and Myles Garrett's behind him. So what he's doing is otherworldly good. And the Giants' offensive line has not been very sharp in protecting Daniel Jones. And now Daniel Jones is probably going to have to hold the ball a little bit longer, because I don't know what the Giants are trotting out there in terms of pass catchers, but it's not good. I like Brian Dable long-term, Matt, but this is weird what's going on with the receivers.
And I'm glad you bring out the injury stuff here. So from a Giants perspective, both edge rushers, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, both are questionable for this game. Kadarius Toney at wide receiver and defensive lineman Leonard Williams. You know how good Leonard Williams is. Both those guys are doubtful. Doubtful means out. We know that. Nobody that's been, I think it's less than 1% of players listed as doubtful have actually suited up and gone on the weekend. And then starting corner Aaron Robinson is out for this game, as is 2 of his backups. So we have a situation in which you don't have Leonard Williams, you don't have Aaron Robinson, 2 of his backups are out, and Stephen, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, both questionable for this one. So certainly an injury report we're going to be watching from a Giants perspective, but even from a Cowboys perspective, because starting left guard Connor McGovern is out for them, as is safety Jaron Kearse. So they have 2 starters out as well on the Cowboys side. But what we're really going to be watching is Micah Parsons, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz, all listed as questionable. Now, Gallup is expected to play in this game, but that does leave Schultz and Parsons, who's been dealing with an illness. That's something we should bring up. He's been dealing with an illness, as at least questionable for this game. I think everybody is pretty sure that Parsons is going to give it a go no matter what, but he has had to miss significant practice time with whatever illness this is. By the way, they say it's not COVID. They say it's not the flu. All they're telling us is that it's an illness.
Yeah, for sure. I think, we'll get the props in a little bit, and the prop I like most revolves around Michael Parsons, so we'll get to that in a moment. But those injuries for the Giants, I think, are significant, not only on the defensive side, but now you're talking about a receiving core that we were already having question marks about coming into the season. They weren't using Kadarius Toney to begin with. Now he's doubtful. He's not going to play. Wan'Dale Robinson, their high upside SEC rookie, is not going to play. He's out. Kenny Galladay's in the doghouse and cleared out his locker despite winning last week. So you're trotting out Sterling Shepard and a bunch of practice squad guys out there at wide receiver with an offensive line that has been near the bottom of the league in pass block win rate. So this is the Saquon Barkley show for the Giants, but they have been near the bottom of the league in run block win rate as well. And the Cowboys have been, better than them in terms of the win rates and stopping the run. So this is a trenches mismatch for me. On top of that, I don't have confidence that the Giants pass catchers are going to be able to help out Daniel Jones. So despite the backup quarterback for the Cowboys in Cooper Rush, I think he's got more to work with. I think I'd rather have I'm not entirely sure, Matt. I know this is crazy to say, but are we completely 100% sure that Cooper Rush is a much worse quarterback than Daniel Jones? I'm not sure.
No, I listen, I understand. And I'm with you on that, right? I mean, I think that there's a difference. I mean, Jones is at least at the end of the day, right, much more experienced and all that. But I mean, what do we know about him? He holds onto the ball too long. He still hasn't gotten over that. Now, his accuracy has actually been pretty good so far. He's got a 71% completion rate, right, through the season right now. 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick, which, again, for Daniel Jones is really, really good. The problem is he has taken 8 sacks on the season and got Micah Parsons most likely coming to town. That doesn't equal very good most of the time.
So let me put it this way, Matt. Yeah. Let me put it this way for you. Would you rather have a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup coming back in this game, by the way, and Tony Pollard as well to go with Zeke Elliott? Or would you rather have Daniel Jones with that offensive line throwing to Sterling Shepard and David Sills, who I've never heard of until this week, and I don't even know who their other wide receiver is tonight, to be honest with you. It's that Richie James, I think. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, no, and yes, it would be Richie James would be the other receiver for them in this one. I mean, I actually do lean a little bit. I have a very, very small lean towards the Giants, mainly just because I don't know if this thing that with Cooper Rush that we're getting is a mirage or if it's actually reality. And so I tend to gravitate at least a little bit more towards what I know. The devil I know, and the devil I know is Daniel Jones.
I'm definitely on the wrong side of the coaching matchup. I'll tell you that. I am 100% on the wrong side of the coaching matchup.
That said, I do think talent for talent, as you mentioned, and specifically now with Gallup coming back, I think you could argue that the Cowboys are at least on par with the Giants from a roster perspective. And if not that, then definitely a better roster, right? I mean, with the way that things have kind of shaken out here, which is crazy. But I'm talking about, listen, there's a potential. We already know Leonard Williams isn't going to play. We already know Aaron Robinson isn't going to play. And there's a chance that either or both of Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari don't play. Then it would tip the scales greatly, right, in favor of the Cowboys roster going out there tonight. So I'm kind of with you, man. While I do have this little slight lean towards the Giants, I think the case can certainly be strongly made for the Cowboys, especially given the injury situation on the Giants side. I guess that does bring me to asking you, and I'm going to pull up our prop finder tool here. And very easy, by the way, guys, just go to odds and they're right under the drop down right there. You'll see prop finder tool and you can click on it. I guess my question to you is this. So we know Cooper Rush is going to be out there, and I'm going to pull up CeeDee Lamb's numbers here from a receiving perspective. It's sitting at 55.5 at MGM, 55.5 at DraftKings. So you can get 55.5 at two different books out there. They obviously have cut this down because of Michael Gallup coming back. But we already know, for one, they did say that he's going to be on a pitch count. And for two, is there any reason for us to believe that CeeDee Lamb is going to be targeted less in this for any reason? I mean, we had Cooper Rush throw 31 times and 10 of the 31 targets went CeeDee Lamb's way. And so I do understand Gallup's coming back, and I do expect him to at least get a few targets in the, whatever limited snaps they end up putting him out there for on this, pitch count that he is. But doesn't 55 in a game in which we think that they should have some success through the air, doesn't that seem like a low total for CeeDee Lamb?
Definitely does. I agree with you there. The only thing I'm debating in my head is whether I want the over 55 or if I want to take an over 4.5 with some juice on it for receptions, because with a backup quarterback, sometimes you're not getting as many deep shots as you would with a starting quarterback. The ADOT's a little bit lower, so maybe just hit those receptions a little bit more reliable than the receiving yards. Although if he has a low receptions night, you always have the chance of a running catch and hitting that over on one play. So it's a tug of war. I think both are fine. The other guy I want to talk about is Noah Brown, because we got a little preseason connection here going with Cooper Rush, and you combine that with Dalton Schultz being banged up. So even though Michael Gallup's coming back on a pitch count, the fact that Schultz is not going to be out there, or if he is, limited, that still leaves an opening in the target tree for Noah Brown, who was very solid the first couple of weeks, even when everybody was at full strength. And we have a low receiving yards total here, 36.5, with some minus 114, minus 113 out there, over 3.5 receptions, anytime touchdown at plus 270. These are much more attractive prices to me than the CeeDee Lamb numbers, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so the over 3.5 receptions plus money at DraftKings right now, and I don't know if people realize this, but Noah Brown, week 1, ran a route on 86% of dropbacks for the Dallas Cowboys. In week 2, ran a route on 94% of dropbacks for the Dallas Cowboys. He got a target share of 23% in week 1 and 17% in week 2. So again, Steven, if we are looking at, let's say we're looking at, what are we going to get? What are we realistically giving Michael Gallup in this thing? Well, I mean, like 4 or 5 targets tops, right? I mean, like if he's on a pitch count, he's not going to get thrown to every single time he's out there, right? I mean, like, aren't we looking at 3 or 4 targets, something like that, probably?
Yeah, and last week with Cooper Rush, Noah Brown did only have 5 targets, so I'd be a little more hesitant to play receptions on him, with 3.5 being the over on receptions. But I think 36.5 receiving yards for Noah Brown on a guy who's gone 60 plus in back-to-back games. And clearly has a role in this offense based on the routes run data that you have just mentioned, I think is a pretty low number here that has not adjusted to what his actual role is.
And if we're going, we know for sure you're going without Leonard Williams and maybe without one or both of Thibodeau and Ojulari. If that's the case, the path of least resistance for this Cowboys team is definitely going to be through the air and not trying to run the ball. If you have nobody that can get any pressure on you whatsoever, then Cooper Rush can just, any NFL quarterback with absolutely no pressure can complete passes in this league. It's the difference is the guys that can they do it when the blitzes are coming or when the pressure's there and all that. But without Leonard Williams in the middle to stop to clog things up, and same deal without Thibodeau and Ojulari. I mean, that could be super interesting. So yeah, I understand 100% with you right here on the receptions, and again, plus money on the over 3.5 if you want to play Noah Brown, a guy that again ran a route on 94% of dropbacks last week. I think the only other one I do want to bring up, and this is more of us just kind of talking through this, is I pull up Saquon Barkley's numbers. They have his rushing total sitting at 76.5. Now, Steven, this can go one of 2 ways, right? I don't see what you think here, but this prop to me at 76.5 is you're basically betting on the outcome of this game. And I don't know then at that point why maybe you don't just bet the Giants at the 1-point favorite or pick them or whatever it might be by the time this goes off, because if you hold Barkley under 76.5 rushing yards, most likely the Giants are losing this game. And if Barkley goes over 76.5 rushing yards, most likely the Giants are having a pretty good time moving the ball on the ground. And that probably correlates to them winning the game as well. So I'm actually not in love with Barkley rushing props in this one, because I think at the spread only being 1, like you're basically kind of just dictating how the game is going.
Yeah, for sure. I think these numbers are pretty spot on. I don't have a strong recommendation on the over or the under for Saquon. I do agree with you with the correlated outcome of the game. Absolutely. The one prop that I found that we actually won't find in the prop finder, because it's kind of obscure. It's hard to find these sometimes. A Micah Parsons sack prop. You can get -105 at DraftKings for over 0.75 sacks. Remember, if 2 guys sack it, it's only worth half a sack. But if it's a solo, then it's a full sack. So over 0.75 sacks for Micah Parsons at -105. And if he doesn't play for some reason, Matt, the bet gets voided anyway if he's inactive. So
right.
So I don't mind that one at all. This guy, with the numbers we mentioned, he's wreaking havoc. He is, 13% higher pressure rate among edges than the next closest guy. And, in full context for everybody here, you mentioned Ojulari and Thibodeau. That's a big part of the handicap here. I actually handicapped this with the assumption that they are going to play. Because
and they very well both might, right? I mean, that's their
reporters that I've been reading are saying it's more likely than not that they will play in this game. So despite that, though, I still think that the Cowboys have edges here in the trenches.
The other thing I did want to bring up, just on the New York Giants side of things, if you wanted to have kind of a long shot-ish ticket in your account, I don't know if you want to play, Steven, I don't know how people want to play this, whether it's anytime or first touchdown or something. But you brought up David Sills, right? Like, this guy last week, and we know it's not going to change this week given the situation. I mean, Kadarius Toney is doubtful. And as you mentioned, Kenny Golladay, they're trying to trade and whatever. So he's going to be out. He ran a route on 93% of dropbacks last week, David Sills, for this team. So this guy's out there, and this guy's out there running routes every time they pass the ball, basically. And so an anytime touchdown, not even first touchdown, an anytime touchdown for this guy is plus 550. And so a guy that is out there running routes on 93% of dropbacks, to get a 550 for an anytime touchdown when you know it's going to be him and Sterling Shepard running every single one of the routes for this team, I think you could do worse. I'll put it that way from a prop market standpoint.
He's also 6'3", so know they're going to be looking for him in the end zone as well. Don't hate the number, like the number. Yeah. So we'll see how it plays out here. I do think the Giants are going to have a tough time moving the ball tonight. We'll see though.
Guys, again, this article over here, Monday Night Football preview, you just hit NFL, go down, Monday Night Football. That will come up. Of course, as always, everything we do, absolutely free. So this is something you want to take advantage of here. You got a breakdown of the game. And of course, you can compare the different lines and the different totals. Steven, we didn't hit the total, 39.5. I think it's fairly appropriate. I mean, from what we've seen from both of these teams, I don't envision a shootout. I don't envision a ton of points being scored. So I feel like it's fairly appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. No strong opinion either way here. I feel much better about the Cowboys being able to pull this one out.
Guys, be sure up in the right-hand corner, as you can see right here, if you look on the screen, that is the little Discord button. Be sure get into the conversation over there. We're also running some free giveaways and contests and different things like that you can get through as long as you're in the Discord channel over there. So we're growing that community. So be a part of that. Hit the subscribe button here on this one down in the comment section. Let us know, how are you playing this thing? You playing the side? You playing the total? One of those props that we just mentioned? Maybe a prop that we didn't get to. What do you think about any of that? And good luck on all your bets here on Sunday Night Football.